The Kremlin speaks out about the Ukrainian president's visit to the U.S., receiving $1 billion military aid package. On his first foreign trip since the outbreak of hostilities, the Ukrainian president received a series of modern weapons from the United States. According to Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov, the increased U.S. arms deliveries to Ukraine will escalate the conflict. On December 21, a spokesman for the U.S. State Department announced that a new military aid package for Ukraine worth $1.85 billion will include O-1 Patriot missile defense system, HIMARS anti-radar missile, ammunition and ammunition. For the HIMARS multiple launch rocket system, 37 Cougar armored vehicles and 50,000 Grad missiles. The aid package will also include 45,152 mm shells, 20,122 mm shells, 100,125 mm tank shells, 500,155 mm precision artillery shells, satellite communication systems and other equipment. Meanwhile, according to U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken, the new aid includes $1 billion to provide Ukraine with extended air defense and precision strike capabilities, and an additional $850 million in security assistance. Not only that, Ukraine also receives important support from the U.S. Senate. Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer said that now is not the time for the administration of President Joe Biden to reduce the level of support for Ukraine, in the context of Russia conducting a special military operation. Now is not the time for us to stop intervening in the matter of assisting Ukraine, Schumer told the U.S. Senate. On December 21, U.S. congressional negotiators reached an agreement on a draft of a $1.7 trillion overall spending proposal to fund the federal government through September 30, 2023. The U.S. government will reject the proposal if both houses of Congress do not pass the bill or a follow-up resolution. On December 21, U.S. senators are expected to review the master plan, including a new emergency aid package for Ukraine worth $45 billion. Many Western officials, including U.S. President Joe Biden and NATO Secretary-General Jens Stoltenberg, say they support Ukraine to weaken Russia and insist they are not a party to the conflict. While initial arms shipments consisted of small arms, anti-tank missiles and mobile air defenses, NATO countries later sent Ukraine tanks, fighter jets, drones, rockets and cannons, as well as more sophisticated air defense systems. Russia has repeatedly warned the United States and its allies that continuing to pump weapons to Ukraine could risk a direct confrontation between Moscow and NATO, and accused the West of prolonging the conflict in Ukraine. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky began his visit to the United States on December 21 at the invitation of Ukrainian officials. This is his first foreign trip since the Russia-Ukraine conflict broke out at the end of February. The visit is considered important in affirming the relationship between Ukraine and the U.S. in the context of Kiev's called on Washington and its allies to continue providing military, economic and humanitarian aid. Analysts say the purpose of Zelensky's trip this time is to convince U.S. Republicans, who will control the House of Representatives early next year and are also opponents of the huge aid payments. Huge for Ukraine. Reacting to the visit, Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov said the visit would do nothing good for Kiev. He also said that increased U.S. arms transfers to Ukraine would escalate the conflict. Washington is still delivering weapons and the range of weapons is expanding. This move will inevitably lead to an escalation of the conflict and is not a good omen for Ukraine, TASS news agency quoted Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov as telling reporters. This comment was Russia's first official response to the news that the Ukrainian president was making his first foreign trip to the United States since hostilities broke out in February. Speaking at a meeting of Russia's top military commanders on December 21, Russian Defense Minister Shoigu also said that the Russian armed forces are now facing the allied forces of the West. The United States and its allies supply Kiev with weapons, train their troops, provide intelligence, send advisors and mercenaries, launch information and punitive wars against us, he said.